They have a terrific situation here playing at home. They don't have to travel. They don't have to deal with any of that. They do have to deal with the distractions of tickets, of course, but that is all set in stone by the college football playoff. So it's kind of a wash for both sides of things. The good thing for Miami players is they don't really have to worry about their families traveling in and things like that for the most part. A lot of Miami flavor on this team. And Mario Cristobal, the leader of this Miami program, did speak with the media on Tuesday, talking about the injuries from that playoff game against Ole Miss. Akeem Mesidor did get hurt late in that game. That was a critical injury that really looked bad when the offensive lineman fell on him. And you're thinking, oh man, this is one of the emotional leaders of this team that is going to be lost potentially for an extended period of time, but not to be. Mario Cristobal said, quote, Akeem Mesidor is in great condition. He hurt his elbow for a second and he's already full throttle. Huge news for Miami fans as he has paired incredibly well with Ruben Bain this season. You stick with the defensive line. Ahmad Moten was full throttle today, and OJ Frederic came out as well. So I didn't know if that was really came out as far as left. I assume that means practiced during the course of their workout in Miami, but another defensive back there that you've got to watch on the Miami defense. So they're battling through some things late. Everybody is. Indiana, meanwhile, is in really good shape from what Kirk Cignetti said earlier this week as well. Then you go to Elijah Lofton. He was carted to the locker room during the Ole Miss game as well. The big tight end, he is one that is going to be in question. He really got lit up in that Ole Miss game and left the game, did not return. So that was a big piece that was out for Miami for a good amount of that game. So something to watch there on the injury side of things. And other than that, I think everybody else is going to gut it out from what it seems like. Damari Brown, defensive back, is another one. It's crazy. So many of these Miami guys I've gotten to know in recruiting and covering recruiting, working for On3, and you see them now making plays for their hometown team. It's really, really cool to watch some of their dreams come true and come to fruition. I mentioned in the past talking with Mark Fletcher, after one of his high school games at American Heritage, and I think he was a junior, in that process, and was getting ready to, really ramp up his recruitment, and ends up signing with Miami. Really cool stuff there, just to look back on now as this game approaches. And I think this is one of those games that if you're a college football fan, you really should appreciate on many, many levels. And I know that people might look at that and say, well, yeah, of course, national championship. I always appreciate watching it. I don't know. This is a unique feeling to it when you have a Miami team that is playing in their home stadium. And I'm going to beat that over your head, this entire week for the most part. I just think it's so cool. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning their Super Bowl in their home stadium a few years back. That was a first. Well, Miami has the opportunity to be the first college football playoff team to win one in their home stadium. And they'll probably be one of, if not the only team to really have that opportunity for years and years to come. If you think about it, Miami does face this Indiana team that is such a good story in college football, and everyone around the country is intrigued by what Kurt Cignetti has done with this Hoosiers program that is, just been listless for years and years and years. And, they've put together this team of James Madison players that broke out last year, and then they brought in this player and that player, and Fernando Mendoza wins the Heisman Trophy, and he is, the anti Carson Beck in post game interviews, and with his personality and all of those things. And so you have these two clashes of programs, but when you look at their head coaches, they're so similar as far as their demeanor and how they go about staying focused on the task at hand. And that probably isn't getting enough burn when you're talking about this game, and just because it's not necessarily a matchup thing, it's just a two kind of immovable objects of coaches in terms of getting them off of their general coaching like ability and message and process, even when things don't go well for Mario Cristobal, even when Kurt Signetti has a huge lead, and should be letting loose a little bit out, outside of his post game beer comment, you have somebody who's really just locked in on what their process is, and that goes for both of these coaches. So their teams have really taken on that mentality as well. That's why they're here. The teams that are going to be most successful in today's day and age of college football are going to be the ones that can block out the other noise that is around college football right now. The NIL deals that they have to, do and make good on, the family dynamics, the agent dynamics, and focusing in on having a team that is so talented that they can win a national championship. But are you willing to do every single little thing over the course of the season to ensure, first and foremost, that you have an opportunity to be in this situation, but then go into the playoff and lock in at such a level that you leave no doubt that you can win that national championship? And here these two teams are, with that level of doubt now being eliminated. You go into this game, and despite Indiana being a touchdown-ish favorite going in, you have two teams that are playing at such a high level that most everyone around the country, I think, is picking Indiana for this game. I would think. I haven't really taken in too many of the national pundits' thoughts on this game, but that's because of Fernando Mendoza. That's because of that, personality of this Indiana team that has emerged at such a level that everybody has seen it and they're gravitating towards it. And when you think about Miami, though, and how they've locked in, it's at a similar level to what Indiana has done. It really is. It's relative, I think, to the opponents and the teams that they faced. But Miami doing what they did against Texas A&M and M in the way they did it, doing what they did against Ohio State in the way they did it, doing what they did to an Ole Miss team for much of the game until that fourth quarter got wild, and then they still were able to get it done. I just think it doesn't get enough credit in a sense because of what Indiana has done as far as dominating an Oregon team that they already faced and beat up on the road, I will say. And this is from someone that picked Oregon, and I should have given more credit to what Indiana had going on. And then they dominated an Alabama team that really, when you look back on the College Football Playoff Committee decision, shouldn't have been in. They did lose that SEC championship game. That was kind of, some people thought maybe, hey, that kind of confirms what we think about Alabama. Good team, just not good enough to be in. Notre Dame, Miami, they should be in. But the committee didn't want to set that precedent of moving them a conference championship game appearance out of the college football playoff. So they just set the precedent that they're going to move somebody else out who just didn't play, who was already ranked above both those teams. So really just weird situation from that college football playoff committee. But I think Indiana just gets talked about so much that we're not appreciating how much these two teams have done in a positive manner to get to this place, and to leave no doubt that these two teams, whichever one wins it, you feel good that I think that we've got the national champion that the people deserve, so to speak. And Indiana would really be that, at a high level, going undefeated in not, their entire season. They just didn't play anybody in non-conference. Miami had a more challenging, season, you could really argue in a sense. But, these two teams really are two tremendous representations of what college football is looking for in today's day and age. I think Miami is tracking a little bit towards that Ohio State trend where they kind of dip just a touch enough to lose 2 one-possession games in the middle of their season, and they picked it back up, and they've been on a roll ever since. Indiana, the closest thing they had really was that Penn State game where just incredible heroics to win that one, and from there they kind of kept rolling.